Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new edition of Message of Hope. And today I have the pleasure to be with Johannes Metzler, who joined us from Berlin. Welcome, Johannes.
Hi, Martine. Really nice speaking to you.
Yes, and so you are an executive coach based on the 3P understanding, right?
Yeah, exactly. I do a similar thing that you do based on the inside out understanding of the three principles. And I specialize in working with people from the business, basically founders, entrepreneurs, executives, leaders, those types of people.
Oh, good. So we'll ask you the infamous question. And the question is, how does having this understanding, how does that help you navigate different events in your life or stresses or under COVID, whatever? So how does that help you having this understanding?
Well, thanks for asking the question. And I haven't really thought about my answer in advance. So I'm very looking forward to what's going to come out of my mouth. I guess I've been on a journey since last summer where I came across this understanding, and also that it was possible to view my work, mostly consulting, but now mostly coaching, from a very different perspective. But not only that, but really, see life from a very different perspective and see, very differently how the mind works and how experience is created. And even though I have been training in using this as a coach, I guess the biggest effects have come from how I myself see life differently, how I see my relationships differently, how I think I've been able to manage everything that happened, especially last year and at the beginning of this year with COVID. So I guess this is where your question going. And I must say that ever since coming across this understanding, even though I had been interested in personal development for a really long time, this has fundamentally shifted my understanding of reality and the world, and really, increased my well-being so much that I have a hard time even believing it myself. And I think, when people ask me how I am, I almost can't help but answer the question with something like fabulous or I'm amazing. And I've done that consistently over the last couple of months, almost as if I was on a natural high. And I'm feeling so light just from this understanding. And that's, so fascinating because, as I said, I had been into personal development and Tony Robbins and all that for a really, really long time and tried to better myself and improve myself. And nothing has shifted, I guess, my feeling of well-being as much as, just getting a different understanding, which is really incredible by itself. And I guess very practically how that has looked, what that has looked like for me is, first of all, I guess how I show up in the relationships in my life very concretely, with my wife, with my two children. And I noticed that I have a much stronger center of calmness. In the past, I would, very often get triggered, quote unquote, by things that other people say. And of course, if you're in an intimate relationship or if you have kids, those are people that you're around very much. So they say things, you get triggered, you react out of a place where you almost don't know where that's coming from. And it's very unintentional. And what I've noticed for myself is that I am much more able to come from a place of calm, from a place of response and not reaction. That very especially, I don't have to take things so personally. I don't have to feel attacked or insulted or unjustly attacked by something. Because and when I try to think about where that is coming from, I think that in the past I used to tie my identity and well-being to what other people thought of me or said to me. And when I felt unjustly attacked, then I would almost need to defend myself or attack back in order to be okay. All right, so that my identity wouldn't be disturbed and harmed. And I think knowing that this is not who I really am, has helped me so much to, respond from a very different place. Especially with my children, I think the additional component of knowing who they truly are and that they will always be okay in life, whatever happens to them. I noticed that a lot of my reaction was coming from a place of almost like immediately jumping like decades into the future for them and trying to imagine, what their life would be like if they didn't learn to listen to me right now or behave a certain way at the table or something like that. And I think that also, has calmed down so much that I don't need to go there as often as I used to in the past. And I noticed that I can, come from a place of, just doing what's right in the moment, and responding what's right in the moment, which doesn't mean I let people walk over me, but I can just come from a place of understanding, of love, of, like empathy for the other person. Sometimes I can, when someone treats me harshly or angrily or something like that, I can much more relate that to the state of the other person in the moment rather than that it means something about me.
Mm.
And I've noticed how that basically, even though this is about me and my well-being, my different way of reaction just does a lot for the other person. So it's basically a way of breaking out of, the cycle of, insulting each other or attacking each other, so on. So it's really amazing for relationships. And I guess, like, looking at the bigger picture, maybe two more things if it's okay. Like, I feel like I'm rambling on, but
no, go ahead.
like, one thing, if you talk about, COVID and everything, like the lockdowns, there was a moment, especially at the beginning of the year, where I think I started the year with expectations of how, I would now focus on my coaching business and how it would take off and all this time I would have for succeeding in business. And then what actually happened was, the Berlin skies were really gray. It was winter. It was cold. The weather was horrible. Like, we're like locked in. The children didn't go to kindergarten. I had way less time to focus on my stuff than I thought. And there was, an initial like wave of frustration coming with that. And after a while, and I think very quickly compared to probably what would have happened in the past, I was able to, really like calm down and just be much more okay with everything that was going on. I mean, for some reason or another, I was never really afraid of like catching COVID myself or, what would happen, because I generally consider myself a very healthy and robust person in my immune system. But it was more about what it would like, what it did to my opportunities. And there were like friends of mine who don't have kids and they escaped to, South Africa and nice countries and beautiful weather and so on. And also there, I think in the past, I would have been much more envious of them. And what happened to me now was that I, noticed that my experience of, unhappiness was coming from thinking that things should be different for me. Like, I should be wherever they were, which was impossible because I have, a family here. But just the noticing of that was what was going on for me, my expectation that things should be different, that already settled me a lot. And maybe as a last, practical thing is that I am, building a business right now. And in the past, I would have always tried to, make a perfect plan and, plan out the next months and be very conscious of how I was going to spend my time and what the goals were for like the weeks and months to come, what I had to achieve, what had to come in as income. And with that understanding, I think there's just so much more trust in life and being somehow guided in life and being able to, always land back on my feet, whatever happens. And so there's someone recently said a term that really stuck with me because I like it so much. And she said, easygoing in the not knowing. And I think that's what's really happening for me, that I'm much more easygoing in the not knowing. And especially in situations that I can't control. And in the past, I would have like sort of tried or to control them or pretended that I could actually control them, even though I never could have. And that would have always made me anxious about then not getting the results that I thought I should be getting. And now easygoing in the not knowing, I feel very light about things turning out not only okay, but actually I think I've developed an amazing, healthy optimism for life and for the future of my life. And to sum it all up, I recently had this insight that was almost like washing over me, that with this understanding, my life really is like, there's no way my life can't be beautiful over the next couple of decades.
That's
and that's
beautiful.
what really sums it up for me.
Yeah. And building a business from this understanding doesn't mean you don't do anything, right? Because some people say, oh, do nothing. But it's not do nothing, but it's doing something from your own wisdom instead of what the experts tells us that we should be doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's really about blazing your own trail and feeling comfortable doing that, rather than feeling not sufficient because you're not following, the advice that someone else laid out for you. But it was their path, and I'm sure they learned useful things. And in the past, I would have always tried to follow that advice and replicate their path. But I really see how beneficial it is to follow my own wisdom and blaze my own trail, and feel comfortable doing that.
Well, thank you, Johannes, for your wisdom. And if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Well, I have a website, which is my name.com, johannesmetzler.com. I'm sure Martin will put it in the description of YouTube or whatever somewhere.
Yes, I
It's a
will.
little hard to make that obvious with my very German name. So people can find me on my website. That's the easiest place, or in Facebook.
Well, thank you for your time.
Martin, thank you so much for this opportunity, sharing what I've seen. And I'm quite happy with what came out of my mouth, which I hadn't pre-planned.
That's the best part. That's why most of the time I don't send the question in advance, because I want it fresh in the moment. So thank you. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much.